Arizona's new $14 million man restored credibility and coached Arizona to win football championships. With the Wildcats basketball team moving up and the Sun Devils crashing in the polls, let's hope East Coast media can finally keep our Arizona team straight. And Congresswoman Martha McSally is calling on Republicans to grow a pair of ovaries, so why is she afraid of Democrats? These stories and more next on the 520. Welcome to the 520. I'm Steve Nunez.
I'm Marty Mata the Fourth. Thanks for joining us.
Well, we got our man. The Cardinals are looking to do the same thing,
right? That's what I got going on here.
We'll talk about that coach and merry-go-round in just a second. But Arizona, like I just said, got its man. Kevin Sumlin's 5-year, $14.5 million contract. No doubt a hefty price to pay, but it comes with high expectations to win championships. It now appears the hiring process, though, was bait and switch. On Saturday, the 520 learned Arizona wasn't fully committed on hiring Navy's Ken Niumatalolo, despite local and national media citing sources and claiming to have inside scoop. Sunday morning, he withdrew his name, and within hours, Arizona hired Kevin Sumlin. It's a guy Arizona really wanted all along. Sumlin has a pedigree to win football games, sell tickets, graduate students, and restore credibility. The former Texas A&M coach had a 51-26 record in the SEC, easily the nation's best conference, and he said all the right things during his first press conference.
The Rose Bowl came up, and I basically said, hey, listen, it's going to happen, and we know it's going to happen sometime. So why not us? Why can't it be us that's part of the Rose Bowl, that's a part of the championship?
I love the fact that he talked Rose Bowl. I love the fact that fans are pumping the fist in excitement. You are, but you are also already critical of his hiring, man.
I'll be to say first off, I am satisfied with the hire. Very excited to see what he can do here. But what I don't like about him is he's very notorious for, at Houston and at A&M, getting the ball up off the ground super quick and falling away from those schools because he plateaus around the 3 to 4 year mark.
But you got to look at the fact that he was able to bring a winning program at Texas A&M. 51-26 in the SEC is not something that's very easy to do. I mean, that's incredible.
It's not.
At Texas A&M.
I won't dispute his coaching talent. Talented guy. Heck of a hire. But it's that 3 to 4 year mark. He'll get up off the ground, and just like we saw here, that just happened with the Cats. We're seeing 3-win seasons. We're seeing 5-win seasons. We're seeing missed bowl seasons. Stuff like that. So I'm excited to see what he can do around that year.
So where do you really give him credit as far as turning this program around? I mean, seriously.
And what I do like about him very, very much, it's very concrete about him, he's not a my way or the highway type guy the way Rodriguez was. He wants the kids to like him, he wants the media to like him, he wants the community to like him. He wants to coexist with everybody else. It's not my way or the highway.
Well, he's definitely a player's coach. And one thing I really like about Sumlin is the fact that he has experience turning a quarterback into a Heisman Trophy winner, just as he did with Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M. I think he's going to be able to do that with Khalil Tate. And I think that's why a lot of people are excited about his hiring.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm satisfied, like I said.
All right, well, fittingly, Sumlin's hiring came on the eve of Martin Luther King Day. He's the first African-American head football coach at Arizona. Coincidentally, 45 years ago, Arizona also hired Fred Snowden, the first African-American to coach basketball at a major university. Turns out, Snowden and Sumlin both grew up in the small town of Brewton, Alabama. Their families are friends. But at what point? Look, we can celebrate the fact that he's an African-American coach in the first at Arizona, but at what point do we just forget about skin color and put it all on his accomplishments on the field as a qualified coach?
It takes one to be one, too. I mean, to say the least, right now we can focus that it's an accomplishment. Shouldn't be that way, but it's an accomplishment for now.
And we should mention, first time the state of Arizona has 2 head football coaches who are African-American, U of A and ASU.
Good stuff.
But we're going to beat them, right? Sumlin's hiring got the thumbs up from former and current players, but none more important, as we just talked about, than Khalil Tate, next year's potential Heisman candidate. In a now deleted tweet, Tate wrote, quote, "I didn't come to Arizona to run the triple option," taking aim at Navy's coach. Then the star quarterback simply tweeted a photo of Coach Sumlin's head on the body of former coach Rich Rod, but giving him congratulations on the field, a nice pat on the helmet. So is the love mutual?
I think it is, and Khalil Tate, he's got the snowball effect characteristic, meaning that once he's rolling downhill, he's only going to get bigger. And the fact that Kevin Sumlin is a player's coach, I think it'll only benefit Tate.
Well, here's really quick though. Here's what I took from that tweet. Okay, I thought that was throwing a little bit of shade at Rich Rod, because Rich Rod was not the type of coach to have a player come off the field and congratulate them or give them props.
You know, it shows the separation in their coaching styles, which they've both been very successful at the opposite ends of the spectrum. Rich Rod, he likes to motivate his players by telling them that there's so much more work to do, you can always get better, never be satisfied, and Sumlin does it the opposite way, meaning, correct, we've got this far.
And don't forget, Arizona's president, Dr. Robert Robbins, did mention that he hired Sumlin for the way he behaved on the sideline.
Yeah, which is what I'm excited
Opposite
to
of Rich
see.
Rod.
And that was one of the first things that he mentioned, that Sumlin mentioned, was he wants to restore loyalty back in the community, and I think that's what the program's been missing.
Well, here's what brand new coach Sumlin had to say about Arizona's young quarterback.
You know, obviously he's shown he's one of the better players maybe in the country, you know, as a young guy. I think the challenge is for us as coaches to kind of get together with his skill sets. You also got to get to know the makeup of a guy, and you know, our job is to get him to trust us, and then, you know, start to evaluate him and talk about what he does well that can help us, but also help him work on things that he's not doing so well.
All right, good things, right things to say?
Of course, he'll wheel and deal his entire career here. That's what he's known for, and that's what they liked about him.
All right, well, talk about awkward. Rich Rod released a message on Twitter congratulating the university that just fired him and Kevin Sumlin, coach brought in to clean up the mess he left behind. On his Twitter page, Rich Rod stated in part, quote, "Congratulations to the University of Arizona and to Coach Kevin Sumlin. I am sure he will have great success with the most remarkable group of student athletes in the country." Is this Rich Rod just trying to stay relevant?
I don't think it's him trying to stay relevant. That's a bit of a sweeping declaration, but what I do think, he's trying to steer away from the negative attention that he's gotten, and this certainly isn't going to stamp him that he is a good stand-up guy, but I think that's what he's going there.
Oh, of course, and he's kind of litigating the allegations against him kind of throughout that statement is how I read it. Here's the other thing I read in that. There's an undertone of kind of throwing it out there like, hey, wait a second, Sumlin, congratulations, but let's not forget, those are my players. I recruited them, and you have 16 of them coming back next year, and you have 16 recruits waiting for you to coach them, but those are my players. That's kind of how I read it, his way of just throwing an undertone jab at Sumlin. He's
always been such an arrogant prick like that.
Thank you.
Are we surprised at the least that sort of subliminal messaging is coming from him? I'm not surprised, but that's what we liked about him when we hired him.
Correct. We liked his arrogance, but no longer, right? He's gone.
It's proven it doesn't work.
All right, well, thank you, college basketball gods. Order has been restored in the hoops world. The Wildcats are back where they should be, ranked number 14 and ahead of rival ASU, which dropped to number 16. Arizona coming off a couple of tough home games against Oregon State and Oregon, as you see right there. The Ducks had beaten the Wildcats 3 of 4 matchups. They came out on fire, hitting 47% of their shots, but the 1-2 combo, DeAndre Ayton and Alonzo Trier, proved way too much for the Ducks. The Cats clamped down on defense, beat the Ducks 90-83. Arizona improves to 14-4, and I just might add, maybe a little bit of time for me to eat a little bit of crow, because I've been so critical of Sean Miller, especially when he gave that, oh, they don't want to play for me speech and all, but honestly, it did seem to work. He did light a fire under their buttocks.
And here's the thing: they do such a good job of reviving themselves every time they take a few steps back. But I don't like stamping Arizona's success at the bar of, well, at least we're doing better than ASU.
I do. Why? Why wouldn't you?
Because
we're a basketball town, man. We love the fact that we hired a great football coach in Sumlin. The town is buzzing right now.
Yeah,
for the first time about football in a long, long time.
We've proven that ASU is human on the basketball court. On the court, we've proven that they are human. We're, of course,
it's a sin when
ASU
is ranked higher than Arizona. It feels bad. I mean, and they talk so much smack up in Phoenix. It doesn't sit well with Arizona fans. So I'm glad. And I'm going to throw shade every chance I get. I'm happy for the state. You know, you got to be, an Arizonan. But really, I'm glad when Arizona is ranked higher than ASU because that just puts it all in order and everything's back to normal.
There he goes. There
he
is.
Well, ASU got its coach. U of A got its man. And now it's the Arizona Cardinals' turn to hire a coach to replace Bruce Arians, who retired at the end of the season. The hiring process also a merry-go-round of candidates, but here are the top two guys getting second interviews. John DeFilippo, he's the current Eagles quarterback coach, and Mike Munchak, offensive line coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Which one do you like?
Off the bat, they both have their pros and cons. Munchak, he's an O-line coach, meaning that if the Cardinals go with Munchak, they have a 5 to 10 year plan in process, meaning they're probably going to replace the quarterback.
Who cares about a 5 to 10 year plan when you need a quarterback today?
So that's what they're going to do. Is they're going to say, well, let's get somebody in the draft with our 15th pick. We'll hand the ball off.
And wait another 10 years before we can, get this quarterback to play up to par. Seriously.
And that's what they want to do. They want to take the load off of the quarterback, keep the ball on the ground with a healthy Johnson next year. On his way out, Adrian Peterson, he's going to keep the focus on the ground with his O-line expertise. But with DeFilippo, they have a 2-year plan. He's a quarterback's coach. He's probably going to go get somebody.
That's exactly what they need,
exactly.
A quarterback's coach.
Exactly.
And you know what I like, DeFilippo? He comes with Nick Foles. Possibly. That's crossing my fingers. It's kind of a little wish list. Nick Foles, come on. Think about it. Nick Foles, Arizona Wildcat. Yeah, I'm going there. I'm going to go there. Nick Foles is a really good quarterback. He's done good considering the situation.
He's done good for 5 minutes. He's done good for 5 drives.
He's got another 8 years. Look,
he's got another 8 years being a backup.
The Cardinals always hire somebody with 3 years left.
And
why not hire DeFilippo, bring Nick Foles from the Eagles, and there you have a homer who played at Arizona, and playing for the Cardinals. He can maybe sell some more tickets because they need to sell some tickets there.
And my mind is more on Alex Smith, maybe Eli Manning, some guys with a proven track record of success for an entire season.
And Nick Foles hasn't had success within the Eagles system.
No, he's had success because of everybody else.
He's had success within that system, and guess what? Bring it here to Arizona, he'll have even bigger success.
Eesh.
And he's a Wildcat. All right, well, let's jump right into Do We Care? As you know, by now, we're not just a sports show. We like to sprinkle in a few community issues, break them down, and ask ourselves, do we care? I'll get started. Congresswoman Martha McSally, the first female fighter pilot to fly a combat mission, flew herself across Arizona to launch her Senate campaign. But before her rally even started here in Tucson, a group of well-known Democrats were escorted out of the private event and threatened with arrest. Do we care?
Off the bat, it kind of shows how insecure she is with her following, meaning that she's
unpatriotic.
Exactly,
man.
She doesn't trust her following to overpower those protesters.
Un-American.
Exactly, un-American.
Here's a person who constantly promotes the fact that she is the first female pilot to fly in combat missions. Well, serving this country is what? Protecting our freedoms. Yet, she does not allow people to exercise their freedom of speech. I find that to be ridiculous. Un-American, unpatriotic, hypocritical.
Of course. And Arizona could become one of the first states in the country to impose tough new restrictions on Medicaid enrollees by forcing able-bodied adults to get jobs so the state doesn't have to provide them free health care. Do we care?
Yeah. we care. And it's pathetic for Arizona to do that. Why? Because it's kind of like, not my problem. However, they pass it off so that it does become my problem. Why? Because you take people off of Medicaid, okay? Arizona wages, Tucson wages, already horrible, okay? Nobody can afford to pay for health care insurance when they're making minimum wage. But you know what happens? These people show up in the emergency room, and then guess what happens? That cost that is soaked up by these hospitals get passed down to us.
There we go.
That's why I think that's ridiculous.
And it's fighting fire with fire. The reason that a lot of these able-bodied people can't afford substantial health care to begin with is because of the financial situation that they're in with their low-income job. It's fighting fire with fire. So it's telling them, well, hey, with our terrible business, let's get some at least mediocre health care going. I don't like it.
All right, an investment company from Texas snatched up about 200 single-family homes in Tucson, purchasing them for $19 million. The company plans to turn them into rental homes. So, do we care?
You know, to me, I don't care, because this doesn't sound like such a bad idea to me. It doesn't sound like such a bad idea.
Wait, let me. Did I hear that right? You don't care?
I don't.
You just argued for people getting off Medicaid, and you're going to argue against an investment company, or promote an investment company coming to Tucson and buying homes to turn them into rental properties. You know what that does? You, a person who's always fighting for the little people, that's what that does. It hurts the little people. You know why? Because people like you who are renting and trying to get a home, guess what? They're not buying these homes because they want to sell them like hotcakes and put a cheap stamp on these homes. They're selling them because of people who can't qualify for a home loan, and then they raise the rent up to $1,366 is what I read. Are you kidding me? For a single family home in Tucson? And that's taking advantage of the little people.
For little people like me, for the young men and women that are barely getting up off their feet looking for somewhere to live,
then you should care.
I don't care, because the market for that is so minute here in town that I'm finally glad somebody at least is putting their eyes onto it. Whether or not they're going to raise the rate substantially, that's another situation.
All right, we'll talk next payday when you're broke.
Eesh.
All right. Well, you've heard the phrase, oh, no, you didn't. Well, here at the 520, we're not afraid to tell it like it is with, oh, yes, we did. I'll get started. It's absolutely beyond unbelievable when insiders at the U of A should have been leaking information, like exposing an athletic department riddled with a culture of bad behavior from coaches to players, from allegations of sexual harassment to domestic violence. It was, of course, hush, hush. The dirty laundry swept right under the rug. But when it came time to hiring a new football coach, all of a sudden, U of A insiders seemed eager to unplug the pipes and let the leak spill out like a monsoon flash flood. U of A played the local media, and the local media got played. All credible information surrounding the hiring of Kevin Sumlin and the process was leaked to the national media, who in the end broke the story on U of A hiring Sumlin. Sour grapes? Darn right I got sour grapes, but the local media should have been in the loop at the same time leaks were dished out to national media. The moment it was official, Sumlin got hired. In my opinion, it seems like this was a game of petty payback aimed at local media because of all the negative news covered and uncovered over the last 3 years, from the FBI investigation to the Rich Rod allegations. And guess what? It took the U of A about 5 hours to confirm to the local media that Sumlin was hired after the national media broke the story.
Terrible. Thank you, Steve. And up next, Khalil Tate. Call him what you want, the Pac-12's best offensive player, the Wildcat savior, the Heisman hopeful. But what I call him Khalil Tate the diva. And here's why. Because he acted like one and seemed to throw a fit just to get his way and to have a say on who the university hired as his next football coach. Now, don't get me wrong. A young man like myself is also entitled to an opinion. I did not like how Tate issued a thread on Twitter implying that he would simply transfer, tweeting, "I didn't come to Arizona to run the triple option." Khalil, I wouldn't exactly say your accomplishments speak for themselves. I would not say that you're in any position to feel entitled to a head coach of your choice. You are ahead of the curve, but far from being a field general, Far from winning a game when you're down in the fourth quarter, which you failed to do 3 times so far, and far from being called the best quarterback in the country. But at the least, Khalil, do not turn your back on the 16 returning starters that have helped you get this far. Those are who you're playing football for.
I'll give you that much. Okay, it takes a team to win championships, but I will say this. Under Sumlin, call him the Heisman Trophy diva, baby, because he's going to win it.
Too much. You've been
yeah.
wearing that scarf too long. Wearing that scarf too long.
All right, well, bottom line, our goal is to tell it like it is because it's all about giving voice to opinions, even if you don't agree. I'm Steve Nunez.
And I'm Marty Mata IV. Join us next week on the 520.